Hey guys, it's Lee here from The Appalicious Teacher. I'm super excited to be talking to you tonight about using hand signals as a type of formative assessment in your classroom. Okay, so today we're going to focus on just using hand signals. Now, I know when we think about that word assessment, we think negative things in our brain. We think standardized assessments, we think developmentally inappropriate tests that we're forced to give, we think tears from kids because they don't understand what they're supposed to do, we think lots of grading, stacks and stacks of paperwork that we have to grade. So assessment in a lot of teachers' brains is something that we stress about. But formative assessments are actually a teacher's best friend because they allow you to spot check your students' learning quickly. They allow you to see where students are progressing. You're allowed to, stop a lesson to do a quick formative assessment. I mean, it's just a great way to kind of see where your students are heading or if they're actually even understanding a concept. So as a teacher, we are using formative assessments. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with that term, because I know some districts use it and some districts don't, it's something you're probably already doing and don't even think about it, okay? A formative assessment is basically just progress monitoring during an activity. Okay, it could be a worksheet that you're doing that maybe you're spot checking while students are completing it. It could be even just a short 5-question test that you do after you've done something. It could be an exit slip. It could even just be a checklist that you walk around to see if students have concepts. Okay, those are all types of formative assessment, and I'm sure there's stuff that you already do in your class. But today I want to talk to you about how we can take out the paper from that and bring in hand signals, okay? So I know a lot of teachers use hand signals in their classroom. I know in my room we use the bathroom sign, drink. I love using thumb up when they're done. Hi guys, thanks for joining me. We use the thumb up when they're done so that I know when I see the majority of the class is thumb up that we're ready to move on. So hand gestures to me are a really great way to communicate to the teacher without having to use our voices, okay? So for assessment, if I'm doing a math lesson, for example, and I want to see if students are really kind of understanding it, I don't always have time to go to each student and be like, hey, you get this? Hey, you get this? Hey, you get this? I might call on 2 or 3 students to kind of get a feeling of how students are understanding, but that doesn't tell me exactly where every student is. So to do this quickly, I can use a visual cue with hand gestures, okay? So today I'm going to talk to you about my 2 favorite, and then at the end I'm going to talk to you about my last signal, hand signal that I do that you guys are going to love because it helps kind of cut down on some of the extra talking, okay? I wrote notes, so hold on, I gotta check and make sure I'm there. Okay, so the first hand signal I like to use is super simple. It's called heads and noses, okay? Now, heads means yes, I agree, and nose means no, I disagree, okay? So when am I gonna be using that type of hand gesture? I like to use this one when we're in the middle of a classroom discussion. I love classroom discussions because I always have talkers in my room. I don't know what it is. They just love putting them with me. And because they love to talk, I need to give them as much time to talk. And so we do a lot of classroom discussion because it allows for students' voices to be heard, for me to kind of monitor that. But a lot of times when we are doing those discussions, the kids all want to share at the same time. They're shouting out and it gets a little crazy. So a great way to kind of curb that and to allow me to see what students' thoughts are, I tell them heads and noses. So if a student, let's say during a number talk, I love doing number talks, we're coming up and a student is giving an answer and I want to see, hey, do these students agree with this answer? Do they disagree? If it's the wrong answer up there, I want to make sure that they disagree with that answer, but how many of them disagree? So I might ask, heads and noses on this answer. How many of you agree and how many of you disagree? Of course, the ones that agree with the answer are going to touch their head, and the ones that disagree are going to touch their nose. Okay, and right away, in about 5 seconds, I'm able to see, okay, who understood the concept there? Who understood that that question was, or their answer was wrong? And who is just kind of going with the flow and being like, I'm not even paying attention because maybe they're saying they agree with that answer, okay? So heads and noses, hands down, is one of my favorite and easiest to do, okay? The other hand signal that I like to use is the 4 4-finger scale. In my district, a while ago, we used Marzano, where students were kind of always rating themselves on a 4-point scale. And so as a way to kind of bring that to themselves very easily, I created a hand gesture that we could do to kind of engage where we think we are. And so I really like to use this one when students are self-assessing. Okay, and this is one that we would use definitely after we've taught a concept. For those of you that do gradual release model at your school, this is perfect right before the students go to that independent part, because it's a quick spot check to see, did you get this? Do you feel confident in this? And if not, I can do something about that before you actually get to that independent piece. Okay, so on the 4-point scale, they just use their hand. So after a lesson, I'm going to ask the students if they feel like they've met the objective. So if we were doing a grammar lesson, I'll say, boys and girls, I want you to think about our lesson today, and how do you feel about nouns? Do you understand what a noun is? And do you understand, if you were to read nouns, would you be able to place them? So, students, I always give them think time, give them usually about 10 seconds, and I count down that, okay? And then they'll rate themselves. A 1 rating means that they did not understand the concept and they are lost. They need extra help, okay? A 2 means they kind of get it, but they're definitely going to need to sit with the teacher, maybe a quick reteach, maybe they have a couple quick questions, okay? They're kind of getting it, they're almost there. A 3 means I'm proficient, I understand this, I might have a couple questions, but I'm pretty good to go. I could probably get started on the activity by myself right now. And then a 4 means I am out of this world with this, I really understand this, and I could probably even teach it. And what I love about using this 4-point scale is that those 4s become your student helpers. Okay, when we're in a classroom with 18 to 20 other students, we're feeling a little overwhelmed. Of course, you don't have time to get to every single student. So those 4s, I always like when they tell me they're 4, you gotta always check them, make sure they're 4. I like to have them, if it's a math problem, show me you can do it, now teach it to me. And if they can, then I'll let them kind of go around and maybe help me with some of those 2s. So after they rate themselves, I can do a quick spot check of my room and I can see who is really understanding those 3s and 4s and who still needs help. And what I'll do is after we've rated ourselves, I'll tell them, those 1s and 2s come to my small group table for, to come see me. 3s and 4s, go ahead and get started on whatever that independent part of the assignment is. Okay, it's a great self-assessment tool. I want to reiterate that. It's a great self-assessment tool, and I know a lot of teachers are always concerned that students will lie about how they're feeling because they want to just kind of get on with it. But I'll tell you, I've used this concept in 2nd and 3rd grade, and the majority of the time students are very honest about how they're feeling, especially those 2s, because they know that they get to come sit with me and have a quick little extra reteach. And those 4s really do want to get up and help to teach. And so, of course, I usually ended up getting more 4s who wanted to be 4s because they want to teach. So you got to be careful, make sure you spot check those 4s. Okay. Okay. So my bonus hand signal to you today is going to be something similar to heads and noses, but it's called shoulder tap. Okay. Like I said before, I really enjoy doing classroom discussions, okay? I like for students to be able to speak. I want them to be able to kind of have a conversation about a concept. It's a very casual thing. I don't always want to have them raise their hand to share. And I do that because kids, for some reason, I always have kids that love to talk. So for shoulders, this is a way for students to communicate that they agree, that they were thinking the same thing that someone just says. I mean, how many times does this happen? You're talking about something and someone says an answer, and then all of a sudden all the other kids are like, they took my answer, that's what I was thinking, or they're sharing their time, the same exact story, their same exact thought. And you're just kind of like, okay, I want you to share and I want to validate what you're saying, but we don't have time to hear 10 of the same story. So shoulders is a great way for students to say, that's what I was thinking, or that's what I was going to say. And I see, if you train your students to use it, you'll see them when a student is sharing an answer, or when a student is sharing, a story, or, you know, their thought process, you'll see students go, yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah, I was thinking that too. And so it's a great way to kind of bust those shout outs that you get when you're doing classroom discussion, is the shoulders. Okay? All right. So those are my my two favorite hand signals for assessment in the classroom, and then one kind of bonus one that'll kind of help curb some of your shouting out. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and you guys have a great evening. I will see you guys later.